ready for the next episode. Can't wait to get home and turn my TV on. I'm ready for the next episode. Got my snap shoes off, no remote control. I'm ready for the next episode.
Hi guys, welcome to the next episode with Nick
and Jess.
And today we are discussing Cross. And so I'm really excited about this show. So Cross is actually based on a book, right? Robert Patterson?
James Patterson?
James Patterson.
Mm-hmm.
You know me.
It's definitely a Patterson.
And names. It's always a problem. It's always a problem.
Okay.
So it's James Patterson. Here's the thing. Like, I remember as a child, like, reading an Alex Cross book. Like,
I've never read an Alex Cross book.
I have. Yeah, I've read a few James Patterson books, but I remember reading an Alex Cross book as a child. Mm-hmm. I'm going to ask you, do you remember when they made, like, the Alex Cross movie?
I remember the Tyler Perry one.
Yeah, and they casted Tyler Perry, and I'm like, who decided that we were going to do Medea Goes Detecting? Like, that was
Tyler Perry.
It was a problem.
It was a problem. Someone owed him a favor.
I also do feel like he had some dirt on somebody, because I'm like, this is not your role.
He knew at least where one body was buried.
And so it's really exciting. Mm-hmm. One, that they're doing a series, and two, I feel like that they gave the show the respect that it deserved.
Agreed.
And casted like
an actor.
Aldous Hodge, yeah. Yes. But honestly, casting killed. Yeah. Casting really killed. Like, they really did a great job of getting people who look like real people.
Yeah.
Like, they look like the show is set in DC, and they look like DC residents. Like, I lived in DC as a child, and there's a particular kind of blackness in DC that's like different from being black in Atlanta or black in California, you know, or even black in the Midwest. Like, it's different. And so I honestly feel like they did a really good job of making them look like people you would really actually find in DC.
Yeah. Overall, I thought that they represented DC well.
They did.
They feel DC vibes throughout the show.
Yeah, it was like there was a love letter to DC written in this show, like talking about the mumbo sauce and going to Ben's Chili Bowl, like, you know,
having
how a lot
music.
Yeah, having, like, you know, some of the characters be politicians because you will throw a rock and hit a politician in DC. Like, absolutely. They're very much going to be in your network. Even like the not-for-profit, you know, foundations, like all of that, like that's a big part of DC. And so I really think that they did a great job. They did. They represented DC well. Mm-hmm. So do you want to give a synopsis, or would you like me to give a synopsis? I feel like we need to give like a more detailed synopsis than we normally do, because a lot happened in this show.
A lot did happen. Okay, I'll leave that up to you. Go ahead.
Okay. So this show, if you're not familiar with the character Alex Cross, or you're not familiar with the James Patterson books, this book is about a detective. Is he a doctor? Does he have a doctorate in psychology?
Yeah, also a forensic psychologist.
Yes. And he works as a DC police officer, which I think is kind of funny, because with his like pedigree and his skill level, I would expect to see him like in the FBI. Like, but the fact that
offers him a job in the show, in this series, yeah,
they do. And so he is known for solving cases. He's kind of like a hometown hero. And so the show starts with his wife being murdered, and that was a little bit shocking for me. Yeah. And it was, the reason why is because they were trying to establish that he and his wife were very much in love. Mm-hmm. She was dead within, I feel like, the first 5 minutes of the show.
Yeah, absolutely. They fridged the wife at the beginning. Absolutely.
Like, I'm just like, wait a minute. Like, but I mean, as the show goes on, you get like flashbacks and moments, so you really get to understand their relationship. But like, the show is like, oh my God, you're my soulmate. I love you so much. Pew, pew. She's gone. And I'm just like, hey guys, let's slow down. Let's slow down a bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So his wife is murdered within the first 5 minutes of the show. And then the show fast forwards a year later, where he's like in the thick of things, in the thick of his grief, and trying to figure out what his life looks like without his wife. And a famous activist is found dead, and like people think that he's been like killed by the police because he's, working to defund the police. His family's like, it's murder, 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 but the police think that it's suicide or maybe a drug overdose. And so initially he just gets kind of pulled in. They're like, hey, can you work this case? Because we're having a PR crisis and you're trusted. And so as he digs
And black.
into,
And very much you're trusted in black, and we're dealing with black people.
that's very true. Yeah, they're like, well, you're a black person. Go talk to those black
Go talk
folks.
to the other black people.
And so as he investigates the case, because he does take it seriously, he investigates it, I feel like, without bias, because everybody's like assuming, oh, well, you know what, he has a past, and so it was probably an overdose, or he probably was trying to kill himself. So he goes in with an open mind, and he digs deeper, and he finds that there's more to the case, and he actually finds a serial killer, which I'm like, man, that's wild. Like, imagine you're thinking that you're just like trying to solve a PR crisis and find out what happened to this one person, and you stumble upon a serial killer who, I think, has been killing people for 28 years.
Ooh. I know he's killed at the point of the show. He has killed 11 people.
Yes.
And his goal is 12, but I don't know the exact amount of years. But yeah, it's been a long time.
I'm pretty sure they said 28 years, because he started when he was fairly young.
He did start killing people in, I think, about while he was college age. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And so as he's hunting and dealing with the serial killer that he first has to convince people exist, he's also dealing with someone who is stalking his family, and he doesn't know or understand why, but he's being stalked. And I think I need to sneeze. Let's see. Okay, it's gonna go. Okay. So he's dealing with a stalker, and so he's kind of being like pulled in so many directions, because like the serial killer is, I feel like, almost taunting him in some ways, but so is this person who is like stalking him, and he's, trying to be a father to his kids and trying to work. And so like he has a lot on his shoulders. I'm like, man, how much can one person take?
And I also feel like at the beginning of the show, so at the end you realize that these are two different people, but like while it's going on, it's not clear sometimes who's doing what.
That's very true.
If the serial killer is the one stalking and taunting him the whole time, or if it's somebody different from his past, you kind of realize later that it's two separate things, but it does seem intertwined throughout a good portion of the show.
You know what? That is a very good point, because the first time I watched it, yes, for a long time, I thought that the serial killer, because you find out who the serial killer is very early in the series. So it's not a surprise who the serial killer is, but I thought the serial killer was taunting him too, which I'm like, why, if you've been doing all of this kind of in silence all of these years, now why are you messing with this man? And it turns out it was not even the serial killer, it was somebody else. Although he and the serial killer do go toe to toe. They play a lot of mind games with each other. They are really mean to each other. And
of course.
But like, and I don't like, maybe I should say this, like they get personal.
Oh, very personal.
That's what when I say they mean to each other, like you've seen movies before where like a police officer is hunting a serial killer and they'll correspond and they'll play mind games. But these two men get very dirty and very personal and have conversations in front of other people. I'm going to call them civilians, because people who are not involved in the situation, like they are having these like conversations in front of civilians. And I'm just like, wait a minute, Are y'all how do you guys not know that he's the serial killer? Look at how he's acting. Look how he's talking to this
The
man.
first time he came on screen, before he interacted with a person, I'm like, that's him.
He
He looks like a serial killer.
does.
He's
He
got
definitely has
serial killer vibes. Like
yeah,
there's
he does.
nothing you could do. There's nothing that man could do to get me to go to his house in a car with him in T-Ware. Because I'm
Yeah,
like, you exude serial killer.
he does. He really does. As a matter of fact, like even like the last person that he captures that he needs to kill to like fulfill his life's work, the serial killer, that lady did not trust him.
No, she
Yet, how did she still get caught? Because she was like, she kept saying like, "This guy, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know," but
yeah.
she still got caught, and I'm like, man, you didn't even trust him.
She didn't. The thing is that frustrated me about her is that she has really good instincts that she does not listen to.
Mm-hmm.
Because she was like, "Oh, you catfish me. No, we're done. We're over." And she starts to walk out. She's about to walk away. Then she lets him charm her back into it, which doesn't feel right because I'm like, there's nothing charming about him.
He's not charming. He's
He
very
feels
creepy.
like us. He feels creepy. So I'm like, I don't know
Mm-hmm.
how you let this man charm you into breakfast. Absolutely not.
You
And
know
then,
what it is? Dating is hard in DC.
mhm.
I've heard that dating in DC is really rough.
Honestly, I think at every I don't know it probably, but dating is hard everywhere. I think it's like he catches her not wanting to be rude. Like some women have this really issue
Mm-hmm.
with being rude or being like, and so like he plays on that to me. He's like, oh, well, just have breakfast and you can leave if you want after that, or just making it seem like he did all this kind of stuff. And I think she does it not to be rude. And the same thing when he got her the job offer for her
Mm-hmm.
dream job, the Ritz Carlton, to get her to the house. And he's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, come over, I'll help you prepare, make you breakfast. And she's clearly like, I don't know you well enough to come to your house.
Right.
And then he plays up, oh, I was just trying to help you. I made these calls, got you this. And so
Right.
she's like, dang it, I can't be rude. And that's the only reason she go because her instincts at every turn told her no.
Right. Even to the point like when before she walks in the door, she's like, if you don't hear from me in an hour, this is where I'm at. Now, did
Okay.
she know that he had like messed with her phone and so she wasn't really calling people? She did not know, but
No.
she knew he was not to be trusted and she still let him get her. And I'm like, girl, what like that drove me crazy. I'm just gonna be
Hmm.
honest. Like that, I'm like, girl, you could have lived.
Hmm.
You could have lived. All you had to do was trust your instincts. But I've actually heard that before,
Hmm.
like that men who tend to assault women, like they do play on that. Women don't like to be rude.
Hmm.
And men use it to their advantage. So we need to start being more rude.
I don't have a problem with it. But
So he matches
we don't
wits,
recognize weakness, only strength.
right. So he matches wits with the serial killer. And that storyline comes to what we think is a conclusion, but not quite a conclusion. And he kind of shifts his focus over to like the stalker. Did you see that twist coming?
I I I saw it before, but it was late. Like I did not see it from the beginning.
I
Normally,
can
I
tell
see it
you
from
when
the
you found
beginning.
it.
Huh?
I'm going to tell you exactly when you figured it out.
Okay.
When he went to see like I don't know if it was like the parole person
Yeah.
or
Oh yeah.
something,
As soon as
and
she
they,
said, "Yep,"
yeah,
as soon
as
as
soon,
she said
yeah,
she was a street mom, I was like, "Oh, it's
yeah.
Nancy."
I that is also when I figured it
Mhm.
out too. And
Mhm.
so then at that point I'm starting to like go back and say, "Hey, should I have seen this twist coming?"
Mhm.
I didn't see it. I couldn't
I
see
couldn't see it either, but I kind of like that because we usually don't get surprised.
right.
So I kind of
Right.
like that. I still feel like I figured it out before most people would have figured it out, but I
Mhm.
was like, "But okay, good one, good
I
one."
think most people probably like figured it out like at the cabin.
Yeah,
Like, you
at
know, 'cause-
inside the cabin, yeah.
yeah.
But I was like, no. As soon as she said street mom, I was like, oh yeah, that's Nancy. Because
Yeah.
we watch enough TV to know, like at a certain point, in the show, the killer has to have, or has to have
You've
been
already seen
introduced
them.
already. Even if you
Right.
don't know who it is, they've had to be introduced. So
Right.
yeah, but yeah, that was good job. Good
It
job. For
was a good job. Did you feel like she started being creepy once they got to the cabin?
that. Yeah, once she started being creepy, then her whole voice was creepy, and then when I watched it the second time, she was creepy the whole time.
Right. You just didn't know, like,
Used
yeah.
to
But
know it.
like once you got to the, it was, and I'm like,
Yeah,
I
I'm
don't
obsessed
know
with
if
that.
it was just because at that point I knew, okay, like this lady is bad news, but it
Mhm.
just seemed like everything. It seemed like her voice,
Her
her
voice.
mannerisms, like
Mhm.
everything seemed a little bit more sinister. And
Mhm.
she's doing things like offering the kids hot chocolate,
Mhm.
making them dinner, and like, we're gonna play
Being very
board games.
auntie
She's
like.
saying all of the stuff, but there's like a sinister undertone to it. I
Mhm.
just think she's like, maybe she's just like a phenomenal actress,
She is, and her voice fit that character perfectly. Like,
Mhm.
there was like a creepy kind of raspy quality to her voice that was like perfect for this character.
Yeah, she did a good job. She
Hmm.
really did a good job. And so, ultimately, like, Alex has to go and save his family from the stalker because the stalker has kind of outsmarted him. And, everybody thinks he's the smartest, but the stalker, outsmarted him,
Hmm.
and they have his kids, and he's, having to reconcile that. And so this episode, like this season was what, 8 episodes?
Yeah. Hmm.
How did you feel about the pacing? Because they did a lot.
They did a lot. I honestly, I feel like at certain points it was too slow. At certain points we didn't have enough information. So I feel like it was a little off. But then those last two episodes, I feel like they were really okay. That's where we really got a good pacing. I do think episode 7 is perfect pacing of all them,
Mhm.
of all the episodes. But there are moments where it feels a little bit slow. And then there are still things that I feel like are kind of plot holes that never got resolved or weren't clearly explained. I don't know if that has to do with pacing, but yeah.
Do you have an example of that?
Yes. And maybe, and I was hoping, because I want to ask you, because I'm like, maybe I'm just confused. I hope I'm confused and I just missed it. But like, so the stalker is upset with Alex Cross because she has these two children that she's kind of adopted off the streets. That they refer to as her street mom. And one of them went to jail because Alex testified in her case and said that she was basically unfixable. And so at the time, it seems like he says that because she's had such a traumatic childhood. She killed this man and she has no kind of remorse or anything like that. But we find out later that it's because she was being abused in prison by someone named Barbara Whelan. Do we ever see that character? Like, I tried to look for her in the
Yes.
second one. Who is Barbara Whelan? I couldn't figure out who that was.
Okay. Do you remember the blonde woman who tried to kill Alex?
That's her.
Yes.
That's Barbara Whelan. Okay.
Yes.
That was
Now,
driving me crazy.
what I did not understand, and I watched it twice, and I still somehow missed it. Why was she like? I. Why was she killing? Why was she trying to kill Alex? Was somebody paying her? I know there was like a letter in her room that said "kill Alex Cross," but I missed like where that letter came from. Was she
That
being paid?
That letter came from the serial killer. No, hold on. No, no, no. Because though he's not the
No,
serial
it came
killer.
from the stalker because if
That okay.
because they were trying to punish her also
Hmm.
because she abused
Yeah.
Deidre.
But then I'm sorry. That didn't come from my bad. That didn't come from the serial killer. That came from Miss Nancy. She was
But
set that up
why?
because she was the one abusing
No,
Deidre.
no, no, no. But why would Barbara do it? Or
I
Brenda?
I assume that there
Brenda
was
said
a
it would
threat in
be.
that note. I know the outside of the note just said "kill Alex Cross," and then there was something inside the envelope. So I assume whatever that was the blackmail or the threat to get her to do it. And
Okay.
they put blanks in the gun or misfires in the gun so that when she
Right.
shot at Whitney, he would kill her.
Yeah. Now I understood that. I knew that they were
Mhm.
punishing her. So I knew why they chose her, but I didn't know why she was willing to kill him. That's
Mhm.
what I did not
I
understand. And
assume that whatever we didn't see inside of that envelope was the threat or the blackmail.
okay. Do you have another plot hole?
Hmm. Let me see. Okay, not that I can think of right now. I'm trying to
Okay.
think of. Yeah.
So yeah, that was my question. I'm like, why is she?
Right, yeah. I
Yeah,
see
why
what
is
you mean, but I just okay. So okay, so then it wasn't clear that that was Barbara Whelan to me, and I was looking for her the second time. I'm like, who the hell is this? Because I was trying to figure out. I'm like, is it the lady that's in the wheelchair that's like the judge? And I'm like, well, she used to be a warden or something. I'm like, why? What is connected? Because okay, why were they after her? Why did they
why
get?
were they after
Oh,
who?
was she the prosecutor?
Yeah,
Okay, she's.
yeah. The like Kowaleski or something, was that her name?
Mhm. I
Yeah,
don't
she
know her
was.
name, but
Yes, yeah. She helped prosecute. She was prosecuting the case.
okay. All right. So some of those little details is kind of running together, or they just weren't as clear to me. But okay, I'm glad we're talking about
It's
it.
because there were two stories
There was
running
so much going on.
concurrently. And at that point, once again, you don't know if the stalker is not the
Mhm.
serial killer. Like, you don't understand. Alex, you're pulled in so many directions because Alex is also being pulled in so many
So many
directions.
directions. Yeah.
So yeah, I can understand because also like I had to watch the show two times to understand like how Kayla fit into the story. So Kayla is like his friend, and then they worked on a case together,
Mhm.
and now she's like in the FBI. Because I'm just like, okay, like she's like pops up and does whatever he asks her to do. Hey,
Mhm.
can you go get this information? Can you do this? Can you do that? And I'm like, where, like, why is she doing all of this stuff? But it's
Mhm.
because like they used to be really close, they used to work together. And now she's in the FBI, so I guess she kind of
Mhm.
has access to more information
I
or
assume that
faster.
when they worked together before, she was in the FBI then, and he was just consulting on a case with her. But yes,
Oh really?
yeah, she's been in the FBI. That's my
Oh,
understanding.
okay. I didn't understand that because she said, hey, we worked on that case together, but you're
Yeah,
the national hero. That's what I didn't realize, that she was already in the
he
FBI.
consults sometimes and different stuff in private. Yeah, I think
Oh,
she's
okay.
always been in the FBI the whole time. Yeah,
But she does a lot for him. I just
that's
feel, I'm
a
like,
lot.
do you have an actual job that you're supposed to do?
But okay, so let me tell you the very last scene with her and Bobby Trey. She does a lot
Yeah.
for him, but she's no dummy. I think the whole time she's also working an angle. She's also very intelligent, but she's also, because how she presents herself, I think she comes across as unassuming.
Hmm.
So like she has end goals too. So what she's
She
doing for
does.
Cross is also helping her,
She does. Yeah, I agree.
but you don't see it until the last minute.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. At the end, when she was like talking to Bobby Trey, I said, "Oh, is she gonna be the villain next season? Because she is shady."
And here's the thing: I think it can go either way.
Hmm.
I feel like it's intentionally. We don't know if she's shady or she was working another angle from the beginning. Either way, she's working another angle from the beginning. But it's
Hmm.
like, is she giving him this deal to get a bigger fish? Which I feel like she might be.
Hmm.
But I think it leaves it intentionally ambiguous, so we don't know. So with that being said, with Kayla and Bobby Trey at the end, when she's offering him that deal, and the first part of the deal is just so that Fanboy doesn't get the credit that he wants so bad. And that
Hmm.
I think is between her and Alex. The second part of the deal, where she gets all the dirt on the politicians,
Hmm.
I'm like, she's either going to go after them directly because she is part of the FBI, and that's who would go after them.
Hmm.
So she's like this whole, you know what I mean? Like working the angle,
Right.
like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna help you with your case because it's gonna help me make some bigger cases, which could be one angle, and I ain't mad at her about that. Or it could
Right.
be, I got all these secrets on this Hollywood, DC elite, who are very powerful people that I can use at my will.
And I think that's what she's doing. And the reason why I say that is because she's like, she offered Bobby Trey like a big sum of money.
Hmm.
And I'm just like, hmm. Like, I feel like if it was like the FBI, if it was more sanctioned,
Hmm.
they would have offered him like more freedom and not necessarily cash in hand. I don't know why cash in hand sounds like CIA to me.
Hmm. No, okay, but this is what it is, though. No, I don't think it's that clear because the money that she's offering him is just she's just going to unfreeze the money that she froze that the fanboy was paying him. Remember, she has his money frozen.
Oh, I thought I know that they froze the fanboys' money, but
Mhm.
I did not realize that the money that's
That's
where they were
Bobby
getting the
Trey's
money
money.
from. I
Yeah.
know, yeah, I know that Bobby Trey's wire didn't go through. So
Yep.
she's just gonna unfreeze his
Then
money.
he has access to the millions that the fanboy was paying him after he does his
Okay.
24 months. So I'm like, so either way, like, wouldn't it be nice to have money? All she's got to, because she's in that, all she's got to do is unfreeze that money once he gets out.
Because she froze it. She's the one that froze it.
But she can do it. And again, to me, that still could be, and probably I don't know what the FBI has, latitude to do, but I feel like that still could be within her job and just,
You're right.
making
You're
her.
right. Yeah. If she's just unfreezing that money, then yes, that does make sense. I thought that she was
She was just
coming out
right.
with cash. And I'm like, ooh, that sounds shady. But
It
yeah,
still could
unfreezing
go
his
either way
money,
because Bobby Trey says, "Is this the FBI or is this you?" And she said, "Money don't know where it came from."
she did say that. And I
So
love that phrase.
I was like, "Girl," that made me like her even more though. I'm not even gonna lie. I was like, "All right then."
I do love that he works within a team,
Mm-hmm.
and he's not like, so often when there's like the tortured genius character, like he stands head and shoulders above like the other people he works with. In this show, he very much, even though he's good at what he does, he is around people who are also good at what they do, who are also like well known and respected for what they do, and I liked that.
Yeah,
I like
I like
that.
that.
I really enjoyed that.
Mm-hmm.
So the show, one of the things that the show tackled and talked about a lot was the relationship between like the police and the community.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really interesting because Alex and his best friend, who's also his partner, their childhood best friends, to John, they're both DC policemen, but they are actually from DC. They still live in the community that they police. Um, and they see themselves as different because of those things.
Yeah, they
But
see
the
themselves as a part
community
of the community.
but the community doesn't see them that way.
I mean, do Black people have the latitude of seeing police officers as part of their community, regardless
They
of what
don't.
they do themselves?
But I thought that that was very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very interesting perspective because they see themselves very differently than how the community sees
Sees
them.
them. Yeah.
And they have a very complicated relationship. It's very much like when the community feels like they are doing what they are supposed to do,
Mm-hmm.
they are civil with them,
Mm-hmm.
cordial at best. At the slightest hint that they feel like they are not doing what they're supposed to do, they like are vicious towards them.
They
And
are.
I honestly respect that a
Yeah,
lot.
because I'm like, is that not our job, but to hold our community leaders accountable?
I have a lot of respect for it
Mm-hmm.
because honestly, like if you look at it, the police are in a position of power.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like if they don't keep their foot on their neck,
Mm-hmm.
are they really going to get what they want and what they need? Because they were from the very beginning saying, hey, Amir is the activist that was murdered. And they're like, he was murdered. And they're like, no, it was probably an overdose or it was probably a suicide. And then like at, at the most they were like, oh, okay, well maybe it was gang activity and gang related.
Mm-hmm.
And like the community they're like, no, he's no longer involved in drugs, he's a
No
community
longer involved
activist,
in gangs.
he's not gang
Has not
affiliated.
been for years.
The police literally like had to be drugged by their fingernails to acknowledge that this man was murdered and it was not related to the community.
Mm-hmm.
And the question is, how many times does that happen
Constantly.
across the country? You know,
Constantly. Like that felt so real to me, that they would have to, because I do think that in policing, particularly in America, like they come up with a narrative and then they try to prove themselves right. And I think the juxtaposition with them and Alex and to John being actual detectives looking for evidence,
hmm
it's just very clear and present, because I'm like, no, they get a narrative, they get a story, and they try to prove themselves right.
hmm
Especially when it comes to Black people, it's very hard for them to see outside of their own prejudice.
right.
They wanted to make this a story about gang activity and drugs so bad because of what they think about Black people, and that's
But
why.
the funny thing is, oh, even though the people making the conjecture, a lot of times were also black, because like there was like the black female police officer who worked.
Mhm,
I think she said she either worked in the gang unit or
mhm.
the
I
drug
would say a
unit.
lot of times that time, because the people who are making the conjecture are mainly the police chief, who's a white woman. She is the main opposition because it is not convenient for her for it to be anything other than gang activity.
Because she's running for mayor,
Because
and so she's trying to shut the situation down.
because she is a white woman who does not see Black people as fully human and does not care what happened to this man. There's the other two female cops who I can't really tell what race they are. They could be white, they could be something else.
Like
But
the one that was pregnant.
the one that was pregnant, and then there's one with like a crinkly hair who's taller than the Black woman. The Black woman is the only Black person who is like, no, this is also gang activity.
hmm
There's not a lot of Black people saying that.
I guess when I say like
Mhm.
a lot, like she's he's giving like
She's very.
direct evidence on why it doesn't make
Mhm.
sense, and she's like arguing with him.
She is, but like again, that argument started before she came into the room with the police chief. Like to me, she's very much like at that point she changes in the show. Like eventually she changes over the black woman,
Hmm.
and I don't know her name, but like that argument that we're going to keep this certain narrative starts with the police chief, the white female police
Hmm.
chief, and she is very strong about it. And to me, when the woman comes in and is like, "Oh, if it walks like a duck, talks like a duck," kind of attitude, I'm like, she's towing the line that the police chief has already set.
Hmm.
And so I do place more blame on her. One, she is the one in the most powerful position. Then you've got
Hmm.
the pregnant lady who I can't tell exactly what her position is. She, to me, she seems like she's higher than Alex and
Yeah, I think she's the
John.
captain.
Okay, so she's the captain. All right, and again, even though she knows something is off, and we know later on that she knows more than we knew she knew,
Hmm.
she's still like, well, okay, you really gonna have to prove it for us to go, even though she knows what the police chief is saying doesn't make any sense considering the evidence, and what Alex and Two John are saying makes the most sense.
Hmm.
So that opposition, they're facing opposition constantly, and that's the other thing. Is like to be looking for the truth, trying to find a serial killer, trying to find evidence is already hard. But every single step of the way, the system is fighting them.
Yes, the not just the system, the community is also fighting them too, and
Yeah.
I think that was the thing that was slightly frustrating to me
Hmm.
because his family, like, while I understood the anger,
Hmm.
like, he had to go visit them too many times to get all that information he needed.
He did.
Like, I'm just like,
You want them to be finding out.
just tell everything.
Hmm.
Okay. Also, here's a question that you may not be able to answer.
Okay.
Did this take place in present day?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, you think it does take place in present day.
Hmm.
So then this is my question is, well, let's talk about what I feel like is a plot hole.
Okay.
So, Amir is dead. They're investigating his murder. They find out that his last phone call was to one of his friends, Tavio. They
Hmm.
try to go talk to Tavio, about what the message was. Tavio ends up getting killed, and they're trying to get to Tavio's phone,
Hmm.
right? Tavio's baby mama, she finds the phone and she goes on the run trying to get this information to someone who can help. If it's present day, why did you not post the audio on social media?
Literally said that. Literally said that. Like yesterday, like I did my research watch with a friend, and both was like, why didn't she just email it? Why did she post it on social media? Why did she email it to the reporter? Why is she going on the run and having to give this phone in person?
I would have sent that message to everybody
Everybody,
I
so that you
knew.
could not ignore it.
I would have texted to everybody,
Hmm.
emailed it. It would have been on Twitter. It would have been
Hmm.
all over social media. And
Everywhere.
that's what I'm like. That's why I asked, like, did this
But
take place
to, to your point, like,
I
and I'm
didn't
thinking back,
see anybody
was that
mention
a flip
social media.
phone? Like that phone did look old.
But the little boy had an iPad.
The little boy had an iPad, yeah, but like the phone, that Tapio's phone did not have a big enough screen. Like it looked really old. Like I'm like, was it a flip phone or was it like one of them Nokia's? It looked, yeah, it did look old.
Because I'm like, instead of like going on the run, like the same day you got the phone, you could have sent that message out to everybody.
Everybody,
Literally everybody. And you wouldn't have had to
girl,
go on the run.
if you had text that thing to yourself when you found that phone and put it right back in his body, you would still be alive raising your child.
That's very true. That's very true. So that honestly
But she's
was like
also grieving and looking at the body of her dead boyfriend. But yeah,
but you know enough to take the phone.
she didn't know
So
enough.
you were thinking strategically to a certain point,
Mm-hmm.
but like I would have. This is what I would have done. I would have sent the message to myself
Mm-hmm.
and took the phone to the police.
Please. Mm-hmm.
That way, let the police, if they're going to investigate, let them investigate. But I also have a copy of the message now that I can send and show to any and everybody.
Mm-hmm.
That part of the story did
Bothered
not
me
make
too. It
sense
did
to
not.
me.
It did not make sense to me either. And I guess the only explanation I can is that you're grieving and not feeling safe, because Cross does say something to the effect that she's going someplace that's familiar, because she goes to she runs away to a hotel that's like in her neighborhood. Um,
Yeah.
so and so he's like, well, she's going to a place that's familiar and close, someplace that she would have seen throughout her childhood and been comfortable. Maybe that's why your decisions are not making sense. Because yeah, I would have just emailed it to the, even if you just wanted to send it to the reporter, I would have emailed it to the reporter.
I saw people doing during the show
Mm-hmm.
online dating, but I did not see anybody on social media. Like I didn't see anybody reference Twitter, but I mean like I know social media existed if there was iPads, if there was online dating, but it's almost like social media did not exist in this particular
That is
world.
true. You don't see you don't see anything on social. Even the protest and activism would have been on social media and.
Right. In
Mhm.
that respect, and so James Patterson, like these books were coming out in like the 90s.
Mm.
And so it's that's why I'm like, what year is this? But there are modern things happening.
Yeah, the clothing.
So it doesn't make sense for there not to be social media. But I guess maybe in this particular world, there is no social media because no one referenced social media at all. And social media would have kept that girl alive.
It would have.
Also, I also did not understand why Tavio, who was Amir's best friend, why he didn't tell the police about the message when they came to interview him initially and he was with the family. And he's trying to
Mhm.
convince the family they're trying to convince I'm sorry, the family at this point is trying to convince the police that he's been murdered
Mhm.
because this is their first time coming in, Alex and Tujan, and they're talking to the family, because at this point they've been told, hey, it's probably an overdose or a suicide, and the family's trying to convince them that there's a murder.
Mhm.
Tavio is right there in the room, literally right there in the room.
Mhm.
He could have played the message for them right then.
Yeah,
Why did he not do that?
that's how strong his distrust of the police are. Yeah, like he was not going to give them any information about anything. And I think that's true for the family too, as to why they had to go back so many times to get any information.
But
Like,
did he play the message for the family? I don't think he did.
no.
Once again,
Okay. And the other thing about it is that because okay, so Amir is gay and
right,
Amir thinks his mother does not know.
right.
And so the sister and Tavio are both trying to keep this information from the mother because they think the mother doesn't know, but of course the mother knows.
Yes, the mother knows, but it's not like in the message he's like, hey, I'm gay, help me. He
No,
doesn't mention his sexuality in the
he
message.
said I went out on a date with this dude and I think he gave me something. He drugged me.
Oh, then I
Then
didn't
he
hear
went
that
out
part.
yeah, that's how you find out he's gay. When you first hear the voicemail and he's like, I went on a date with this dude, something's off. Come get me. He's telling Tavio to come get him. And that's why Tavio is staking out the house. That's how Bobby Trey finds him. Connects.
Oh, I didn't know he was gay until the mama was like, "Well, he gay."
I knew, like from that voice once they played the voicemail, because that's how he got him. He got both of them from dating sites, just
Yeah,
different dating.
I know he got them from dating sites. But when I heard the voicemail, all I heard was somebody put something in my something
He said he was
and
on a date. He said he
come
went on a
get
date.
me. Okay, so then I completely missed that part
Mhm.
because when the mama was like, "He gay," I was like, "What?"
So that's also part of the reason why he's not sharing that information with them, because he's still trying to protect him, because they are friends.
Yeah, that's his best friend.
That's his
But
best
I
friend.
but okay, so let's say he did not want the mom to know. Why did he not play the message for the sister?
Mm-hmm.
Like there was way too much segmented information for me
Mm-hmm.
for people who swear that they want this murder solved.
It is. It's because you're not thick as. It's because they are not thick as straight, and they are. They just have this extreme distrust for the police. But yes, it does not make sense to both be pushing the police to solve a murder and not giving them vital information that would help solve the murder.
Right. But I honestly feel like that's kind of realistic.
That I agree. That's why it doesn't bother me, because I feel like
It's frustrating though. It's
mhm,
frustrating, but there is a realism because
mhm,
like black people have a very complicated relationship with the police.
Mhm.
Like we want to be protected like any other community, but we don't feel like we are protected. And so you never know what interaction is going to go badly. Even when you're do you know how many times black people call the police because they're being attacked or they're being assaulted or they're being robbed? The police come and shoot them, you
Or shoot
know?
their husband or shoot their son. Do you know how many times I've had so many conversations with moms who are like, I was scared to call the police because, my son has an issue, a mental health issue, and then I'm afraid that they're going to come and kill him.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
so they don't call the police when they need help. And that's why that interaction, as frustrating as it is, it makes perfect sense to me given black people in America's relationship with the police. Because you don't
Hmm.
know what you can trust them with, what you can't, what they will use against you. And that's why they're so closed mouthed.
Right. Now, okay, so while we're talking about people going complicated relationships with the police,
Mm-hmm.
so there's a scene where Alex is at a dinner party and now like these are like the fancier black people. Like these are like the bougie DC
Mm-hmm.
blacks. And he's like at a little dinner party. And he gets into it with one of the party goers who I feel like is pressing him unnecessarily hard about being a police
He
officer.
is.
He was at like here's the thing, was Alex's reaction okay? It was not.
No.
He has anger issues, he
Mm-hmm.
does, which makes you seem even crazier when people are already saying you shouldn't be a cop and then you show you have anger issues. It makes you look even crazier. But like, even I have complicated feelings about the police. I'm not going to sit at a table with a cop and be like, oh my God, how are you even a cop? Blah, like, how is that even a productive conversation?
He
Like,
wasn't
for
trying
whatever
to have
reason,
a productive conversation. He was trying to provoke him.
and he did a good job. He did.
Mhm.
Because I'm just like, this is weird.
You know
Who
what?
does this at a dinner party?
There are a lot of pissing contests in this show. There's so
Fact.
many. And that's one of them. That and
Yes.
and, and that's another reason why that scene definitely irritated me too. But at the same time, it's real because it's like anytime men get a chance to say mine is bigger, they're going to. And he literally says that at the beginning. Um,
I love that scene though. That scene was hilarious because I said the same thing that mess. I'm like, you got your thing in his face.
he had it so close to his face. That was hilarious to me. But so that was a pissing contest, and he was trying to provoke him, and he was. I don't know why, if he because I think he just had to be intimidated by Albus. That is a huge hunk of man. So I get it. And I don't care what you do for a living. You cannot compare. Um, but so I think he just wanted to get under his skin, and he did. The
Mhm.
issue I have with that scene is that that's the one unrealistic response that I think we got from Alex, and not even the anger or the fighting, because that makes sense in the context of what that he's going through. But when he
Mhm.
points out this example and said, with the police, if you something happens to you and the police and somebody's about to beat you, you know what, who are you going to call? I hate that question for the when they ask that question to black people, because that is always an issue for black people. And I'm like, and you as a black person know that black people always struggle as to whether or not they can call the police when they're in danger. We just talked about that.
Right.
And I'm like, so that that's not a weapon you could throw up against us. That's some dumb thing white people say to us, because they don't understand that every time we have to have an interaction with the police, even if we know we're the victim, we
Mhm.
have to go through a process of, is it worth it? Would it be better if I just get robbed and then
Mhm.
wait till the robber's gone than have to deal with the possibility of dying from the police, because the robber might just take my stuff?
Right. And like police do not prevent crimes, and they have a really, really, really low solve rate also. So like,
That's
I think uh, so I agree that
every
saying
single
like who's
time.
going to help you if somebody's assaulting you, probably my cousins, honest, like let for me honest,
No,
it's
but
probably my cousins.
that's a wrestle every time. And every time I've been in a situation where I've had to call the police, that is something that that you wrestle with, literally. Because you remember, I don't know if you remember, like when I was living with that the Attila, and then
Mhm.
we had that person in the shed behind the house. Well,
Yeah.
we didn't know it was a person. We just saw the light flashing. So I was
Right.
living in a neighborhood that was like predominantly white. We had one friend on the street behind us that we knew, and that was a black man. We called the police first, and we called
Mhm.
that person next. Do you know? So we You know that they stopped our friend on the way to come to us. The very police
Mm-hmm.
that showed up at the house stopped to pull him over first before he got
Yep.
to us.
Mm-hmm.
It is always a struggle every time. And yes, we are in an emergency trying to think through things to think if it's worth it. So like that question is ridiculous as a black person to ask another black person. You already know.
Right.
Why haven't you told the police that you work for and work with that you've got a stalker for that same
Right.
reason?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, the show. I enjoyed the show
I just think,
overall. I did. I thought it was a good. I thought it was a good story.
mm-hmm,
It's interesting, like what they're gonna do. Like if they get a season two,
mm-hmm.
because like, is it realistic that runs up on another serial killer, or like you know what I'm saying? Like
They've already been
what?
renewed for season two.
Oh really? So I'm like, what is realistic? Is he going to get called away to investigate something interesting,
Mm-hmm,
or like how many serial killers are going to come to DC, or maybe like what's going to happen? He's already done a big child abduction case
mm-hmm.
because that's how he got famous before.
Yeah.
Now he's done this serial killer, so I'm like, what's going to be like the major overarching story of season two?
I
What
mean,
seems realistic? Because the show is very much based in reality.
but there are so many Alex Cross books though. So I think they can go in really whatever direction. Yeah, oh good lord. Yeah, I'm looking at at the list. There's a whole bunch. There's a lot of places he can go. I think like he could like it doesn't necessarily it could oh goodness, I feel like I'm stumbling over my words, but they could continue in the direction of serial killers and he could just have a different kind of serial killer, or it could be a different kind of crime.
But do
Um
you think he's going to get pulled if it's another serial killer? Is he being pulled as a consultant, or another serial killer just happens to operate in DC? Because honestly, nowadays, like serial killers are so far and few in between.
mhm,
I don't know if it's like technology, like it's harder to not get caught these days,
mhm.
or if people are finding other ways to like let out their violent, sick tendencies in other ways. I don't know.
So let me pose something to you, and I still don't know what direction we're going to go in season two. I think they're going to pick up with something with this with the woman that we saw at the end, and
Kayla.
that's going to be one storyline, and then of course there's probably going to be some other crimes that he's solving. But let me pose it to you this way: they would have never caught this particular serial killer if Alex hadn't really pushed it. You know, they would have just
Mhm.
written this off as gang violence and went on. Like, are there ones that are going undetected because of the victims they choose? Because I think that's always been true for them.
Now that has I agree that historically, like the most prolific serial killers usually choose people we don't care about, like
Like
homeless
prostitutes,
people, hookers, gay men.
right?
And then when I say people we don't care about, I mean like
As a
society at
society,
large, not me personally. But like it's always like a lot of times a marginalized
true.
group of people,
Mhm.
and they'll operate over wide areas like truck drivers. I think I've seen like truck drivers who like pick up like prostitutes, and so it's
Yeah.
hard to tie them together. But I just think, like I feel like in the 70s and 80s, like serial killers, it seemed like they were like popping up like crazy.
Okay. So here's my other thing. I don't know that I agree with you that there are less. I hope you're right. I don't know that I agree with you that there are less. I don't think that they're necessarily less. One of the other things that I think this show points out well is an issue that I personally have with policing and how we train police, and that they're
Mhm.
not. Like Alex is good because he also has that additional benefit of being a forensic psychologist and studying people and learning the motivations of people. I feel
Mhm.
like you can just run up the ranks and as a regular cop and then eventually become detective. There's no training on how to really find things. That's why we also get the tunnel vision of this is what I think happened, so let me prove myself right instead of let me
Mhm.
look for the truth. So
Mhm.
again, are things just not being detected because they're not being connected because they're not because police get a particular narrative and then they try to
Mhm.
prove themselves right.
I don't know how did all of a sudden like it seemed. Well, I think serial killers really are something like the FBI usually does. I
Mhm.
think, but it just
Once
seems like
they're identified as serial killers is my point.
right.
And
I
I'm
don't know.
saying that
Maybe it's
traditional
the
police work is not good enough to identify them.
maybe it's the loud serial killers
Yeah.
are a thing of the past.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
The ones who are intentionally trying to taunt you, taunt the police, and taunt,
mhm,
and that kind of stuff, and mess with you, or who are very ritualistic about it.
right.
So that's our idea of what it is, but it's really if you've killed like what, five or more people,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And so
Mm-hmm.
I just think that they're not being connected or detected,
Mm-hmm.
because I think that
Because they're doing it in a way that's more quiet.
I don't know if they're intentionally being quiet or just not in something like we very much see serial killer as who this guy is, like the guy Ramsey. That's how we see
Mm-hmm.
them. That's how we see all of
Right.
them. But like in reality, what if they're just like, if it's not that like fancy and ritualistic, and so the police are not putting it together as such, but that's essentially what it is.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. And someone needs to come out with a documentary. What happened to the serial killer? And let me know. I'll watch it.
Well, we probably both will.
So, holistically, is
Mhm,
there anything else you want to talk about as far as the show? I know I want to do some deep dives next,
mhm.
but do you think holistically we talked about the show?
Well, I was overall, I think that the show is really good. I
Mm-hmm.
like that it brings up a lot of the issues that we talk about, and like just how difficult it would be to be a black police officer and have to deal with the two,
Mm-hmm.
being in the middle of two worlds, and especially to be one with scruples. You know what I mean? Because we kind of see that him juxtapose the black female police officer who is like, I'm just gonna go along, get along until she doesn't. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I like that overall. Like I said, some weird issues with pacing on the show, but I feel like they catch up and they make up for it. And it's still overall a really good quality show. And I like the writing. I think that's all. But yeah, overall, really enjoyable.
Yeah, really, I think that they did a good job with the show. The
Hmm.
story was interesting. You know, the characters are characters that I care about. So, I want to see,
Absolutely.
what happens next. I enjoy, like I said, I enjoyed the setting. I feel like they really gave a lot of love and a lot of respect to DC.
Hmm.
So I really enjoyed it, and I would definitely watch a season two. I'm like, we just really have been picking like really good shows to
Yes.
watch.
I'm so glad that you enjoyed this. I was a little worried about it. I was like, I don't know if
Really?
yeah.
Yeah, no, I knew, like, I was excited because like I told you, like I watched the Alex Cross movie with Tyler Perry because
Did you
I've
watch
been
the one with Morgan Freeman?
yes, I did, but that was
So
like
long
that was
ago. Yeah, I don't remember it
yeah,
either. It's so long ago.
it was so long ago.
Hmm.
And so the one with Tyler Perry, it just pissed me off. I'm not gonna lie.
It pissed me off from the before I watched it. I was like, no, no. I'm like, and I'm not a person who's read the books, but I still know that this is an important character to a lot of people.
It is. It really is. It is. He is an important character because,
Hmm.
like, like when I was a child, like reading these books, like a famous like
Hmm.
black detective who's like a
Hmm.
psychologist, like that was like not normal,
Hmm. Yeah.
So no, yeah,
And
he's
I
definitely
would
an
say
important
Aldous
character.
Hodge is perfect for it, and not just because I think he's perfect for everything.
I do agree. It's so hard for his personality not to shine through
Yes. I love
with
it.
whatever
Mhm.
character he plays, and it's not that he plays the same person because he doesn't play the same
No.
person, but there is just an underlining part of his personality that always shines through, and I just love when I see it. I
Mhm,
love
me
when I
too.
see it peek
Like him
through.
picking on Two John and bringing up the Old Spice thing because Isaiah Mustafa, who plays Two John, is the Old Spice guy. Him saying,
Yeah.
"Oh, you smell like mothballs and Old Spice." Yeah, you get a little bit of that, and it does. And I'm a huge Leverage fan. Leverage is one of my
Yes.
comfort shows. So yeah, I know
Same.
you see, like you still see glimpses of his personality because I just don't feel like that character would have been that he played Leverage would have been as dynamic if anybody else would played it.
Absolutely not.
I don't, and I think because there's a genuineness that comes across with Aldous Hodge that is wonderful, and there's a blackness that comes across with him, no matter what he does. Because I'm like, I don't care what you say. They wrote that character General. He happened to be black, but he was like, but you're gonna feel that I'm a black man in this, and then
Hmm.
it made the show better.
It did. It did. I yeah. That he. I love Leverage. I do.
Me too.
It's on my yearly watch. Like I have to watch Leverage every year.
Yeah, yearly. Let's not talk about that.
You know what? The funny thing, I have so many shows
Mhm.
on my yearly. Like half of the TV I watch every year are shows that I'm rewatching.
Mhm.
So it's like I can't watch any show more than once a year because I have so many on my list. I'm like a huge rewatcher.
I'm a huge rewatcher too, and Leverage is probably the show I watch the most, honestly.
Yeah, I do love it. I do love it. I, yeah, I love an ensemble cast.
Me too.
You know,
Of experts that are really good at whatever they do.
yes,
Yes.
it's,
To come together to do something. I don't care what it is.
my
Whether
like
you
my
want to come
little
together to do
dirty
crimes
brain.
or you want to come together to save the world or a little bit of both. Oh, I'm down.
Yes, yes. I love an anti-hero with a heart of gold.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But the next episode, honestly, I'm really excited because I really want to talk about relationships and Alex's relationships. I think there's a lot. There's a lot to in there.
Mhm.
So guys,
See you next episode. Bye.
I'm ready for the next episode. Can't wait to get home and turn my TV on. I'm ready for the next episode. Got my snatch shoes off, no remote control. I'm ready for the next episode.